And what are some key issues for you in this election?
Well, I think the one that's on top for me is that Idahoans, working families, need affordable, truly affordable health insurance. Right now, families that I've talked to are paying in the neighborhood of $2,000 to $2,500 a month just in premiums, and then they have $10,000 deductibles on top of that. And I just don't know many working families that can afford that, and for many, they're dropping their insurance, which makes the self-insurance pool sicker and more expensive, and so premiums are just going up and up, and there's just something's got to give, because for families that are working, most of them are just one emergency surgery away from financial ruin. And if you want to build a house or a business or get an education, you need that financial security, and that's something that we in Idaho need to afford, give everybody the opportunity to have affordable health insurance and health care.
Absolutely. And what are some proposals that you think the legislature could do to help residents who struggle with that?
Well, one of the things that they've been trying to do is to get a waiver from the federal government that would allow families to buy insurance that fits their needs and does not have to have all 54 requirements that are needed for policies in the Affordable Care Act. And then the other thing they want to do, it calls for a Medicaid expansion, but what they would do is take the sickest out of the self-insurance pool. I think it's about 12%, but they cost the most, of course, and move them into Medicaid. And moving them into Medicaid would make the insurance pool healthier. So the hope is that that would help bring down premiums. And they tried. It didn't pass in the last legislature. But I think that, given the crisis that the individual insurers have in this state, it's basically, according to David Cameron at the Idaho Department of Insurance, it's the system as it now stands is unsustainable. And that's what I would support. And regarding the Medicaid expansion, Prop 2, I've looked into that, and I thought that first, this is going to be hugely expensive for Idaho, but when I found out that it would cost about these are all projections, of course, and nobody knows for sure, but it would cost about $10.5 million for Idaho to insure the total Medicaid population. That would include the expanded area. That would be $10.5 million, and then the federal government would chip in nearly $5 billion.
Oh, wow.
And that would be some. See, right now the situation stands, when someone needs health, they can go to a hospital and get care. Mm-hmm. Regardless of whether they can pay or not. And I think, what else can we do? But with the expansion, it would shift some of those costs onto the federal government. I don't know how strong the federal government is going to be in the next few years, because they are clearly spending beyond their means. But I think that it would afford these folks some sorely needed care. I know was a complicated reason, but I've always thought it was kind of wacky that they would put that gap population in there. And so I'm in favor of the expansion if they have things like premiums, a small premium for people that have insurance that are on the program, and co-pays for doctor's visits, and higher co-pays if they go to the emergency room, to encourage folks to spend their money and the state's money more wisely.
Absolutely. And how do you view the tax burden for Idaho taxpayers right now? Do you think it's appropriate, the current rates? Would you be in favor of potentially cutting some of those or increasing them? What's your stance on that?
Well, I think the tax cut that they gave Idaho in the last legislative session, I'll get that out, was a good thing, because to me, tax cuts spur the economy and create more revenue for the state to use. I think the burden on the taxpayer is always probably more than it should be, and that especially we need to look at ways to fund roads in a fashion that doesn't overburden especially property owners. I think that they're carrying a lot on their backs. And I just think that a lot of governments, even though we have a lot of needs, we have to make good choices. Brad Little says that we have to look at it first as, what do you need? And then we look at, if there's money left over, we look at what you want. And I think that that's a sound way to proceed.
Absolutely. And what are some improvements to the public school system in Idaho that you think the legislature should work on?
Well, I think they should continue with the career ladder, the pay ladders for the teachers, and they really need to look at ways to help kids get career technical training, especially in the computer technology field, and even welding, plumbing, car maintenance, all of those things, because often kids that can leave high school with those kinds of skills can go get a job and earn right off the bat $42,000 a year. When, if you get a 4-year degree, I bet there's a lot of bachelor degree owners earners that would like to start out at 42 grand a year. And having those choices, kids can get their education and stay in Idaho and work in Idaho, and we want that. I think it's really just, and we should also incentivize colleges to graduate kids in 4 years so they don't get so much debt, and also in careers that would lend them better employment.
Wonderful. Well, anything else you'd like to tell voters in District 26?
I guess I'm dedicated to helping Idahoans thrive with the lightest government touch.